I'd like to call this meeting of the Princeton City Council to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor Mabry.
Here.
Councilmember Newman.
Here.
Gomez. Here. McCall.
Here.
And Select.
Here. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. If you have a copy of the agenda in front of you, we're going to wait on public comment, and we're going to discuss the Business Development District discussion. And tonight we have two representatives here. In just a moment, I'm going to let Michael, our own Michael Ziering, get up and talk first and kind of give an overview, and then we'll introduce. But right now, I will say we have from Hometown Consulting, we have Cole McDaniel, and from Jacob & Klein Attorneys, we have Herb Klein. So, Michael, why don't you go ahead and get started, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
I don't know if everyone in the audience might be aware that we are looking to establish what's called a Business Development District, BDD for short. This would be a more or less a source of revenue and a fund that we could use for business expansion, retention, and development by means of grants or loan programs with businesses within the district itself. So it would involve a quarter to 1% sales tax. Is there?
We need the microphone, but I don't think it's going to work for the past couple of
Oh, I'm not sure it has either. Yeah.
Just, you're doing great.
Okay. So it would be a quarter to 1% sales tax increase that would go into a specific pot that could get redistributed to businesses or streetscape projects, street projects, things like that within the district. This has been identified as a tool that other communities use and have had great success with. And we think with some of our storefronts closing, we needed to find a way to bridge the gap to make it make sense for entrepreneurs to open businesses here and to get the existing ones to stick around by helping them directly financially. So I know everyone's got some questions about that. I'm happy to have Cole McDaniel and Herb Klein here, two of our consultants that are helping us through this. It is kind of a complicated process, a lot of requirements and things like that, but we have a great leadership team here to help us through it. So, any questions for me?
Mike, if you would, you could identify the people that have been meeting the past, say, 6 months over this. I'd appreciate that.
Sure. So it's myself, Mike McCall, Don Seletsky, Lynn Olds, Jenica, and then we have a business specialist, Jeff Cecil, and Teresa as well.
Good. We'll take it from her, Michael, whatever you want to do.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to introduce Cole. He's going to give us a progress update on what they're doing, and then also more information on BDD.
Thanks, Michael. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me here. I will try not to steer too far off topic while I'm here. I kind of want to go through what we're currently doing for you guys, including Business Development District, and just touch on a couple of other items while we're here. So since we've got started, we're roughly a little over 60 days now since our contract with Hometown Consulting started, and the engagement's been great. The level of engagement we've got with you guys, with the EDC group, the Chamber, with Michael on our weekly meetings, and Teresa too, it's been extremely helpful and insightful. It makes our job a lot easier when we get great information to make some great recommendations. So we do appreciate that, and believe it or not, we don't get that everywhere. So thank you guys, and thank you for what you've put together so far. It's going to help kind of drive this conversation regarding Business Development District this evening as well. One quick thing that I wanted to pull up that I think I've already closed. So in your packets for the board, and I want to make sure to pull it up here so those in the audience have it too. I don't have enough printed copies, but so this is just our progress report and some of the BDD progress. So I'll speak on, and I will keep it short for you. I promise I won't keep you here for an hour. I'll keep it short for you. And
this is critical. We're glad you're here. In other words, and the folks in the back, if you can't see it, maybe shift over a little bit. We want to make sure you get a chance to see it. And I don't know if that screen can be turned just a little bit towards the audience. All right, so we'll call you and be able to.
I'll try that. You guys should all have what I'm going to go through right here in front of you. I move. And then I'm standing right in front of it, so I'll stay back here. But anyway, just want to go through our progress report. So share with council a little bit about what we're doing regarding BDD and working with Jacob Klein, Michael, and city staff here, but also some of the other items that are kind of in tandem we're working on as well. So this is just our brief report. Figured we'd touch on some of those other items that are in progress right now as we get going. I won't read it for you word for word, but like I discussed with coordination and communication, weekly meetings with Michael have been wonderful. We've been able to get quick answers to the questions we have or information we need to get back to Herb and his group to really get the planning and the process with the business development district going and getting some of those things done, because as far as March seems away, it's right around the corner for stuff like this. So getting that in their hands so we can make sure we meet deadlines is super important. So business development district planning and kind of the process that's occurred with the group that's been meeting, development of the initial proposed boundary, which I will pull up here. Key commercial corridors, really the areas in town that are going to be encompassed by this business development district. So I think you can just sharing things kind of in the way, but for those in the audience, and I've got a couple extra maps. But so this is the boundary of the business development district, as Michael stated. And I'll let Herb talk about some of the more technical things as far as where that funding can be spent. It has to be spent in the district and how that works. But so we've gone through, refined the boundary, looked at these potential areas for development, not only for small business support and other forms of development, but looking at potential housing development opportunities, infrastructure upgrades that need to occur to accommodate some of these things. There's been a lot of thought and planning going into that from the city staff side of things as well. And pull this back up. We've also gone through and in your guys' packets, and as well as Michael, I gave Michael several copies of this, is a save the date or RSVP that if you haven't seen, I've got copies of this. Michael has copies of this. If you'd like one this evening, it's for a community meeting on January 27th. So the goal tonight was to meet, discuss this, have Herb come and answer some questions about BDD and timelines and what they're working on as well, and then have that meeting on January 27th where also in your packet there's a list of questions. Now there's 28 of them in there, and what I would propose to council is that you go through those. If you see a question that you say, I absolutely don't want you to ask that, well, tell me. I don't think that'll be the case, but if that is the case, let me know. And if there's additional questions you want to ask, as much as this is about business development district, it's about planning, it's about long-term planning for the community, for economic development and beyond. So it's an opportunity to ask some of those questions. So we take all that list of questions, we build it into an actual live survey platform. So when we have an audience there at that community meeting, we'll be asking these questions. Everybody can pull out their smartphone, or if they don't have one, we've got a couple options where we'll bring some laptops in. They can answer those questions, and as they're being answered, they're going to pop up on the screen, and we're going to be able to have some real open dialogue and ask some questions about the answers we're getting to what's posed there, which we found, over the last couple of years has been extremely helpful for A, getting someone to maybe answer a question or say something that they wouldn't raise their hand and say, and B, help us dive a little deeper into, well, what do you mean by that, or what type of business specifically. So as you go through those, if you have feedback, if you see that you or have a question you'd like to have asked, please let us know. So that list of questions is there for you. And that community meeting, again, is January 27th from 5 to 7 at the Metro Center. Should I call? Is that correct? So we'll lead that, facilitate that. I think Michael has received a handful of RSVPs, somewhere between 12 and 15 so far. We want to get as many people there as we can. Not only, I'll say this hesitantly, but not only the people that really support it, but also maybe the ones that are on the fence or that are opposed to it, so they can understand it better. They know what this is. And I commend you guys for going through the process you've gone through even before we got started of saying, hey, we wanted in your scope of work to hold this community meeting, to be transparent, to inform people. We want their feedback, and we want to make decisions based off that, and I appreciate that, and I think you guys are moving in the right direction as far as that goes. Run through the rest of this here. So one important thing I want to share, and I may have to turn this back slightly so everybody can see it, including you, Mike. But so we talked about this a lot at the beginning, the GIS implementation and data development. So there's the county source of GIS. There's the city's current source of GIS. We've gone through and kind of merged those, and we have some updates for you guys to pull in from the county too, just like parcels that have been split and stuff. There was a handful that we were able to identify. But going in and actually building the GIS, the public-facing version for economic development, as well as the available properties inventory. So as we're in that process, I just want to share with you guys a little bit what that looks like. Let me pull up here. So this is a nice disclaimer that's, yes, there may be boundary lines on this map, and yes, there may be property owner information or easements or anything else. Don't go dig your own sewer line until you call the city and go through the proper channels like you normally should, but yeah. These things don't come without these things happening first. So just a disclaimer, the information is accurate, and we want to maintain it and keep it accurate, but just to give you guys an idea of the different kind of things that are going to be in this public-facing version of the GIS. From an economic development side, we will have parcels in there which are pulled from the county and the city's GIS system. I'll talk a little bit more about the focus area in a minute. The business development district, we were able to go through this and actually map out the BDD, pull those PIN numbers, make sure we get those shared with Jacob and Klein, as that's part of the BDD plan. The buildings, your zoning, corporate limits, of course, and then your planning jurisdiction, which is your 1.5 mile radius there. So one thing I do want to share, and traditionally this will be kind of after the 90-day mark, but we've made some really good headway. So this red area that you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's got a 5 up towards the top, I'll kind of get out of the way here, is what we call focus area 1, just to give it a name, but this is essentially your stretch of downtown. So we are up into number 4 and almost 5. I was hoping to have it populated before this evening, but I got cold to hold my horses. So what you're going to see here, though, is in that commercial district, it is going to be color-coded. It's actually going to be the building uses. What's vacant, what's service, what's retail. They're all going to be numbered. They'll all be correlated to a key that says here's the business that's in this building currently, or it's residential. Or so that whole stretch there will all be color-coded here in the next handful of days as we get all that populated. And our goal is to maintain that and keep it accurate. And it helps to start to visualize, where are our retailers? Do we have a cluster of retail here, but all service here, and why? It just helps us dive a little deeper into those areas. So you'll see that coming here in the near future. And what I'll do, since I'm sharing this with you now, is I'll actually email it to everybody, and we will make sure that we get that up on your website and work with Michael and Teresa and Amanda on our team to get you that tab and information on your website. This one's also in process, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share your guys' here real quick. So same context, but one of the biggest things when we started building out GIS maps for communities, and one of our big things was available properties. What's for sale, what's for lease, not just commercially listed, but what's maybe a pocket listed. Yeah, I'd sell it, but I've never commercially listed it. We want to get that information and get it plugged into here so people can see that. Because as much as we may know here locally, well, I know Jim's got a building for sale, and there's one down on the corner, but if I'm from outside of the community and I want to invest in Princeton, how do I know what's available if it's not commercially listed? So a way to kind of address that, and one thing we wanted to make sure to do when we're building out these GIS is I don't want you to know have to know how to use GIS to know what the available properties are. So it'll be 2 separate links, and it's actually 2 separate maps. So you can see the general idea, and those are actually available properties in the community. I think one's actually out there in the county, but it's close. And this is being built out as we speak, and I just want to share with you Bartonville's to talk to kind of what this more finished product will look like. So this is going to be your GIS link. You can see actually there's some other layers on, but you can see the color coding of the buildings and some of these other items that are going to show you the building uses and information service, government, nonprofit, vacant, retail, workshop, storage. Yes, that's a category. I don't love that category, but it is one. And really get an idea of what those are. But if I'm from outside the community, inside the community, it doesn't matter. Whether this for sale or for lease, I'm actually going to be able to click on the pin, see the information about the property itself, a photo, pin numbers, address, where it's at, how it's zoned, is it in the BDD, and then link directly to, if it's commercially listed, link directly to the actual listing. Our goal is not to be the realtor, but it's to get in contact with the right people and share the correct information. So, and then a value hopefully from the city to your business owners, to your property owners, outside of BDD, but with our services that we're providing for you under contract would be, they can come to us, come to the city and say, hey, Michael, I want to list my building, or it's for lease. I have 1,500 square feet, and here's what we think it's suitable for. We can get that up on here. Someone calls Michael, someone calls the city and says, I'm looking for 900 square feet in Louise. Okay, here's what we have in that market, right? Here's what's available, here's the price point. Information is power when it comes to this stuff, and being able to get quick answers is super important in economic development. So I'll stop there on the GIS stuff, but just want to share with you guys kind of the progress on that, what that's going to look like, and share a little bit about the importance of it. The other item, and I will pull this up for everyone here, and Michael, I may need you to talk a little bit about this. But in working with Michael, Teresa, the EDC group, one thing you'll see in your packets is the preliminary projects and potential uses. So as Herb will tell you, part of that BDD plan is determining, well, how are we going to use the funds? If we're going to create this funding source, how are we planning to use the funds? What specific projects do we have? What anchor projects do we have that we're going to tie these funds to and put in the plan so we can make sure when the time comes, or if that project moves forward, it's called out in the plan and there's a justification for spending those funds on it. So another thing you have in there is that list of those projects. And Michael, I don't know if you want to touch on any of them specifically, but this is something we'll probably touch on again at the community meeting. Feel free as you go through those, if you have questions about what those are, either reach out to Michael or myself. And I know some of these you've received emails on, and it's either got some layouts or design work and some other attachments that would be included to kind of showcase the projects and what they are. And then, of course, last thing I'll say is for business redevelopment, for building revitalization, there are buildings that, as much as everybody in this room may want to invest in the building, sometimes it doesn't make financial sense because of where it's got to or because of deferred maintenance. Luckily, you guys are in a position that's a little different than a lot of small communities, but there are still buildings that need love, and unless it's out of the kindness of someone's heart, they've got a pretty big donation to do it. It's a very hard project to take on and to fund without some support. So it's this mixture of not only investing in our local businesses and buildings, but allowing that incentive to be there so some of these projects can move forward, and so we can see some of this change that we're talking about and looking for. So I'll pause there. I know I went through that quickly, but I want to make sure I got all that to you guys of where we're at so far and some of those other items outside of BDD. And then Herb, I'll let you speak, and then maybe we can take all your guys' questions and stuff. But I want Herb to share his part and what they're doing and kind of what that looks like going forward. So
thanks, Cole. Yeah. And thank you all, and glad to be here, and thank you for retaining us to help with this process. Been working with Cole and Michael and Teresa a little bit to get to this process. And really, our role in the process is just getting started. So Cole and Michael did a great job. Your GIS system is really helpful in identifying the property within the map. So what we have to do is we have to take the approximately 950 parcels that have been identified in the map. We have put together a study, do a study of those areas, and find that the area as a whole, not every single property of those 950, but the area as a whole qualifies for inclusion in what's called a business development district. A business development district is a local tool that a municipality can create. They've become very popular in probably the last 5-6 years. The statute that we're operating under has been around since 2010, so in the legal world, as John would know, that's a relatively new statute. It authorizes a municipality to impose up to an additional 1% sales and or hotel motel tax that is collected within that area and then reinvested in that area. And the reinvestment in that area can be used for public infrastructure, public improvements, parkway, roadway improvements, water and sewer, but can also serve as a source of funds to assist businesses that might need some help with rehabilitation. With business development districts, you can use the funds to actually fund new construction, unlike tax increment financing districts. You can actually help pay for vertical construction if that's something you want to do. And cities have found it a very effective way to promote local economic development. The council decides within the parameters of the plan, which is what we're going to put together, and the statutory guidelines as to how the money is spent. Cities use it for grants. They use it for matching grants. If the business owner invests $5,000 in the property, maybe the city, once funds are generated, will invest $5,000 in the property. You can impose requirements. They have to stay in business for so many years. So much of it's forgivable a year. 20% a year, for example, over a 5-year period, so that if they do the development they're going to say, you reimburse them your percentage that you've agreed to put into the business to help that business rehabilitate or renovate its building to continue to thrive. You can do loans. There's a multitude of ways to structure the reimbursements to the private business owners and the incentive offering to them. They've become very popular because they're effective. There's about, by last count, which was October 1st, the Department of Revenue reported there were 292 business development districts in the state of Illinois. It's about 180 cities. Some cities have more than one. For example, Peoria has a number of business development districts in place. How it works is we have to put together a plan, a qualification study. The informational meeting as Cole is having is great. There'll be a formal public hearing where once we have the plan done, we present that. We can answer questions about that plan. The city council then has to adopt the plan, make a finding that the area on the whole qualifies. Our office then has to file that with the Department of Revenue in Springfield, work with their office down there to get the business development district certified. The goal is to have that done by April 1st, so we want to file with them sometime in early to mid-March to give us a couple weeks to work through that with them. And if that happens, then as of July 1, the sales tax will start being collected, and you'll start to see the revenues. It'll come separately from the state, and you have to deposit that into a special fund. It's not your general sales tax, which can be used for anything throughout the city. It's extra sales tax that goes into the business development district fund that can only be used for the authorized activities within the area. The state accepts these twice a year, April 1, and the collection starts July 1, or you can file by October 1st, and the collection starts the following January 1. So those are the only two times you can file these with the state of Illinois. The software is very impressive. They push that out to all the retailers that collect sales tax, and when you buy something at a retailer, and if it's in the business development district, you're going to pay that extra 1% sales tax. The other thing that's in place in Illinois for the last couple of years, Illinois adopted what's called Level the Playing Field Act, which means that if you are a residential unit within the boundary of the business development district, and it's important to know, maybe there's an apartment above a retail store downtown. If that homeowner, that resident, orders something on Amazon, on eBay, on Walmart.com, that address is going to, the business development district is going to apply to that address as well, so they will pay that extra 1% tax. That's why working with Michael and Cole, we've tried to tailor the map to focus on the focus areas, the commercial corridors of the city, not unnecessarily take in residential areas. Now there's going to be some, because you have people that maybe live above downtown storefronts. There might be a scattered house here and there in a commercial corridor. The area as a whole has to be contiguous. You can't hop and skip and have gaps in the boundary. So it's inevitable that you do pick up a few residential areas, and we'll talk more about that at the public hearing. So that's the process we're going through. People ask all the time, how much is it going to generate? And that's really impossible to guarantee with any certainty. But if you look at sales tax, as Teresa knows and as Michael knows, is confidential information. Now, you have designated people, I'm sure, who are signed up with the Department of Revenue to get that information from the state as to what you generate. And this is an extra 1% on those businesses that are within it. But the business development district tax doesn't apply to everything. For instance, it doesn't apply to anything that's titled. So your car sales do not pay the extra 1% tax. Trailers that are titled do not pay the extra 1% tax. It does not apply to prescription or most medicines. It doesn't apply to medical devices such as canes or walkers, that type of thing. It does not apply to grocery items. It does apply to take-out food. If If you order a pizza to go, that extra 1% would apply if the pizza restaurant is located within the business development district. It would apply, for example, at McDonald's. But it doesn't necessarily apply, you know, if you go to the grocery store and you buy your normal groceries, it won't apply to most of the items there. So the computers, software, they do an amazing job of tracking it. Cities, you know, especially if some of your larger retailers are included, cities that are able to do that, you will see monthly receipts of well over $100,000. It just depends what retailers are part of the mix. City of Taylorville, Illinois, if any of you are familiar with that, it's just south of Springfield. It's a community of about 10,000 people, so it's slightly larger, but it's pretty comparable to Princeton. They generate, on average, probably $120,000 to $130,000 a month in their business development district. So that money can add up fast. You can see the kind of good you can do with that money as far as infrastructure, assisting businesses.
What's their percent?
They went the full 1%. So you can go in 1/4% increments, as Cole mentioned. You can do a quarter, half, 3/4, or 1%. And if you do half, and a year or two from now you want to amend it and go to full percent, that's fine. We would have to do another public hearing, but you just do an ordinance amending it. Most cities do the full 1%, but you don't have to. There are a number of cities that have done 0.5%. You don't know that it's really justifiable to go through this exercise and do all the work for 1/4%, but that's your decision. Like I said, it's become a very popular economic development tool. It's locally controlled. The nice thing about it, unlike tax increment financing districts, we're not dealing with real estate taxes at all, so there's no joint review board meetings. There's really no impact on any other taxing districts, so we don't have to have meetings with them as you would if you were setting up a TIF district. It's good, this informational meeting that Cole and Michael set up with the businesses to educate them. And, you know, we can give them, and I think we've given Michael some already, examples of other towns' programs that they've sent up, whether it be grants or loans or a mixture of them to help the businesses. You know, try and keep it as simple as possible. You know, 1 or 2 page applications. This is what I want to do to my storefront. I'll invest this much. This would be the grant or the loan, however you want to set it up, that the city would put in. They make the improvements, they spend the money, they bring the receipts in, we validate that the contractors were paid, and then you reimburse them. So that you don't necessarily give them the funds up front. You want to make sure they're spent on the project. Questions?
So, if I could, tonight our goal was structured to have us as council get more education on this, and have each council member ask questions and comments, and then I'd like to then ask the public here tonight to have some questions or comments. This is kind of a dialogue back and forth, and if this takes an hour or an hour and a half, I don't care. The point is, this is a very valuable evening for you to add your input. And we're in a unique situation in that the last time we raised our sales tax in Princeton was when we went for a referendum for a 1/4% for our roads, and that's proven tremendous to keep our roads, at least get them back on track for our overlays and our curb and gutter. And that was a 10-year, and we've already into year number 5 probably.
Started in 2019.
2019, so we're on year number 6. We're halfway through, and we're hoping to go back to the public and ask for another 10 years on that. That's been vital money. So I want the council to ask questions and comments, and then when we get done, we're going to ask the public here tonight to also have some questions or comments. So go ahead. We'll start with Mike McCall.
I think 2 things you were mentioning: groceries, things like that aren't covered under this.
They're not.
Fuel would be another one that.
Gasoline is covered.
It is covered.
It is covered. Now, it gets a little more complicated to figure it out because what the state does, they back out the motor fuel tax and then they apply the 1% to that. But gasoline is covered.
Okay.
For retail purposes, you know, you're getting gas at local gas station is covered.
Also, when it comes to the point where we would be spending the funds on some sort of project, does that go through you guys to show that we're legally spending on that?
We do, most of the ones we've established, we do help administer them. And we made that proposal. That's up to the city. Some cities use that regularly. To make sure that it's consistent with the law and with the plan. Hey, is this a proper expenditure of the funds? Yeah.
I'm curious about the residents that are shopping in these establishments and are facing that extra 1%. What kind of pushback, if any, have you received?
We've established a number of these throughout the state. We represent on a regular basis about 90-some municipalities throughout the state. You typically only see any questioning about it on those large ticket items. If you have furniture stores, appliance stores that are within the proposed district, and then our usual recommendation on that is if you're going to include one, include them both, so that they're on a level playing field. You wouldn't have one furniture store in the business development district and the other one not in, because of those big ticket items. We've not really seen pushback from the retailers. Most of them look at it as a positive. We have a number of communities that, for example, include Walmart in their business development district, and they don't have veto power anyways, but I'm not aware of any pushback from them at the national level as to not being included in the business development district. The plan has to benefit the area as a whole. So one of the goals of the Business Development District Act, the law, is to improve public safety, public access. So most of our communities, like Princeton, like every other community throughout the state, they were laid out and the retail areas were developed primarily for vehicle access. So what many communities have built into the plan is how can we increase pedestrian or bike access to our retail areas. I'm not saying you're going to do that on day one. You got to accumulate funds to do those types of projects. So many communities have done that, and extending the business development district to maybe closer to the interstate, those larger retail areas. How can we make them more safer, whether it's turn lanes, pedestrian-wise, bike access lanes, to include them? How can we beautify those areas to make them more attractive for people to shop in? Public safety and public infrastructure is a component of the qualifying factor for inclusion in a business development district.
Jerry, any other questions right now?
No, I think it's an idea that if I was a business looking at a community to move to and could move into that BDD, I think it'd be a great plus for me.
Yeah, I mean, generally it's like, okay, we want to promote economic development. We want more people to spend money in our community. We really want to raise taxes. On the other hand, the communities that seem to have thriving downtowns, you have a very thriving downtown now. You're very lucky to have maintained as many businesses as you have downtown. I grew up in LaSalle, so I'm very familiar with Princeton. And you've done that very well. But to be able to continue to incentivize those businesses and help them maintain these 100-year-old buildings, it's a nice tool to have available. If somebody spends $100, do they really notice that extra dollar? I don't know. I mean, it is extra money, but if you're reinvesting it in the community, you can't use business development district funds, for example, for your payroll. So it's a reinvestment in the infrastructure of the town and the businesses that are there. So that really serves as a little bit of a check on it, that if you're not imposing this tax, you give all your employees a raise as much as you might want to give them all a raise.
Herb, can I add to that?
Yep.
And I would just say, that's one of the reasons, not just from a funding standpoint, but you include your franchises and your major corporations and some of these others too, that you get some of that interstate traffic. That it's not just residents that are going to Walmart, it's others too. How do we capture some of this outside tax dollars and then not give it to Walmart to do a facade, but do it in downtown, or save a downtown building, or reinvest those dollars from near the interstate into the core and the heart of our community, which would be downtown. And that's why that area is usually pretty sprawling. So
if you go back 20, 25 years ago, when every town started to get a Walmart, everyone thought, oh my gosh, this is going to kill all of our local businesses and their downtown businesses. Well, here's a way to capture some of those funds that they're generating and reinvest them in your downtown business. So they're actually helping your downtown. And we talked, Walmart's the biggest player in the game, but there's other national retailers and franchises as well. So that's another positive way of looking at it.
Don?
A few of the residents will be included in that, because the map is going to be continuous.
Yeah.
They will, as you said, pay in on Amazon.
Yeah, they will. They order on eBay, Amazon, yep.
What benefit do they get from this? I mean, is there a chance they'll say, I need a new porch, the resident?
I suppose they could, and again, that's a council decision, whether they want to use any of the money for residential improvements. I mean, there's nothing prohibiting it in the statute. There are some communities that have done it. They've done it more for demolition, you know, unsightly homes that have fallen into various states of disrepair, or maybe the garage has fallen in various states of disrepair, and they'll make grants to help them take down old buildings or old sheds. Whether or not you want to use money for somebody to make their house look nicer than the one next to it or around the block, that's really a policy decision.
I mean, it's not the focus of this, but I know that there's going to be probably a question if you have a house included in that.
And some of your, you know, some of your large historic homes that you want to preserve that look in the community, that makes sense to do that. But again, that's why you guys get the big bucks. We'll just tell you whether legally you can do it or not. Cole may have more.
I would just add into that, you know, yes, we've seen some communities that do, you know, individual residential rehab, or we're willing to match X amount of dollars to put a new porch on, or for accessibility reasons, things like that. Other things you start to find over time too is there may be 4 or 5 decent or nice or really nice homes in the one eyesore on the corner. And it's got a landlord that lives in Spain and it hasn't been back in 3 years. Hey, we need to tear that down. Ultimately, using the BDD funds to do something like a demolition, to tear that down, to, you know, then offer it back to the adjacent landowners is a benefit to them. I know it's not necessarily a direct benefit, but ideally getting rid of some of those things or improving some of those areas ultimately can raise the value and the perception of their homes too. So that's why we look at it as an area. It's, you know, maybe not an individual house, but because this area is improving, because the infrastructure, the sidewalks, the things around your home are improving, ultimately it is a benefit to that, you know, specific homeowner.
I'm mainly asking because I know it'll probably be a public question.
Yep. Sure. No, it's good. It's a great question. We ask it all the time.
John, no more questions at this point?
Okay.
Hector?
I totally understand everything that you're saying as far as that goes, including Don Selesky's question. The home is within the boundaries of the district. Obviously, they would qualify for certain things. And we have done that in our end to actually demolish other buildings here at city's expense, or trying to send the bill to owners, and most of them won't pay. Anyway, but I think the most thing that would hit people right away would be the fuel tax. As you go around the area, I mean, Peru area was like 262, maybe 270 something, and we're at 386. We were at 390, at 386 to 390 something here. So, given that small percentage, we'll go ahead and actually sometimes drive people away. Just from that standpoint of it. The other question is, they live within the, and I'm not for sure in this part here, and they will pay the 1% tax for Amazon. And so I believe the state wanted to also do the an amount for a delivery charge for that too. So it'll be on top of that, as far as the 1%, if that was implemented.
You're talking about the proposal in Springfield to add a delivery charge? Yeah. Well, that hasn't been adopted.
Yeah.
And
I know the same
I know they've
that
talked
was-
about that, and I'm not going to predict what they're going to do in Springfield. But the business development district tax applies to retail sales. So, to me, a delivery tax would be a service tax, you're not buying it, and you're buying the service of delivering, just like you're paying John the lawyer fee or the dentist fee. Maybe John at this point doesn't charge anymore.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that would be a service fee, but it's hard to say because that law hasn't even been enacted.
No, to say, if it was to come into effect, just say.
So if it was a $100 item you ordered, and they charged a $5 delivery fee, I think you would pay and you had a business development district, I think you would pay the 1% on the $100, I don't think you'd pay it on $105. But until they enact the law, who knows?
So
If they enact it.
it could be cumulative,
Yeah.
so total amount, or it could just be like,
Right.
yeah, sure.
After any more questions at this point? A couple of quick comments, and I told Michael during this, what keeps the mayor up at night is at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm thinking about a possible sales tax increase of 1%, and that bothers me. But and then I thought about how we started this whole process, and I appreciate Mike McCall working on this, and Don Sletsky, and I thought, well, this district, we started out thinking, where's this district going to start? Does it start out by the interstate and maybe go down Main Street and grab some of those businesses? And then I know that the committee's worked on then spreading it out to East and West Peru Street. And I get my card and just drive around and okay, I'm embracing this more and more as I think about it, because when we go out to West Peru Street, and I wrote down my notes, we really appreciate, like Heartland Auto Body has done a tremendous job out on West Peru Street, improving their buildings. They bought the old Stoner Sign Company building, and that's going to look beautiful when they're done. Princeton Chevrolet is out there with their Ford dealership and their Chrysler dealership. They've done a great job. And then Corn Belt Energy's done a great job. But you get out there on West Peru Street, and it's pretty bleak out there. We got some issues out there we need to work on.
We did our siding and windows over at the Legion Hall too as well.
Okay, and I don't want the veterans to get mad at me tonight, so yeah, we'll include that. But the whole point is, as I grew up in Princeton, that area was always very vibrant, and so I can see where including that makes sense. And then we go out to the East Peru Street, and we get out there, and we appreciate Flowers by Julia's done a great job anchoring that, and by the library taking on the old Eagle store and renovating that into a library. But you know, it could be a little bleak out that way too, and so I get it why we expanded it out. So I appreciate what you're trying to do. We're still going to have questions whether we, in implementing this, and as a council, we just so you know, as taxpayers, what we spent so far in money in hiring our independent consultant firm, Hometown Consulting. It was the first year contract is $55,000. We have that invested, and Mr. Klein here, his law firm. We've got, it's a two-stage fee here, but we've got roughly $20,000 invested as of tonight with you working on this, getting us started on this. Then we have an additional $20,000 approximately that goes into effect. So we could have up to $100,000, but we also need to express so that Hometown Consulting has got a lot more they're doing besides the business development district, so I understand that. So we've got money invested in this. I personally think it's going to be a good project. I think that it's important how this is presented to the public. That's why tonight it's just a way for you folks that are stakeholders to have a chance to listen, and then we'll have a committee or the whole community invited out on the 27th to really have a same presentation, questions and answers. So I see where we need to put money. We've got some projects on Main Street, and again, we're not trying to criticize any specific building owners. They've got some old buildings. We've got the Apollo Theater that, in visiting with the owners, and they've got some rough estimates, there could be $400,000 to $500,000 spent at the Apollo Theater. And when I go visit small communities on my weekends, I go do my little one-day trips, and you see communities that in Illinois that are vibrant. Their theater is vibrant, and communities that don't have it, that have a theater that's boarded up. I mean, there's few things uglier than a theater that sits there empty. You know, that marquee's hanging there, and it looks bad. The pigeons are flying in and out of the building. And so we have other buildings like that on Main Street that are going to take substantial dollars, and we understand those property owners just don't have that kind of money to invest. So I had some sleepless nights on this, but I've embraced it. And now, with that said, I'd like to ask the public here tonight, the stakeholders, if you've got questions, we can try to get answered for you on this. And again, this is what it's about tonight. This is the most important part of our meeting tonight. So anybody here tonight would like to make any questions or comments, just all you have to do, just real quick, we'll have you get to the podium and just state your name real quick. For the record, because this is being recorded, so tomorrow we're glad to help you.
Sam Fisher, one of the two criteria is how do you justify a blighted area?
So the Act talks about, I mentioned, access. Is the proposal going to improve the safety of the area? You also look at the age of buildings, deteriorated structures, And, you know, if you own a property within the area, we're not insulting your property, but the statutory definition of blight is different maybe than the common definition. But, you know, it's...
The revenue's going to go by what the municipal code says.
Well, the qualification is, the revenue is based on the retail sales generated on the
The
property.
municipal code has a definition for blight.
Yeah, the business development district has definition of blight, and it can be as simple as, you know, it needs new windows, the roof is deteriorated, the siding is deteriorated. That can be a blighting characteristic. Beat up sidewalk, which is a hazard, beat up curb and gutter.
You've not experienced any problems with having to justify that blighted definition?
No, I mean, we're, you know, and that's what I mentioned, there's 950 some properties Cole and Michael have identified. I don't think 950 properties are going to qualify, but I think, you know, just my knowledge of Princeton, right, I think the area as a whole is likely going to qualify.
And revenue makes that decision?
No, the council makes that decision based on our report.
So that there's no clearance?
The Department of Revenue is, their review is more of, do we have all of the retailers within the map by address, parcel identified? Theirs is more of a technical review, and this is a local tool. The council makes the decision based on our finding that the area as a whole is blighted.
Such a terrible term.
I didn't write the law.
Well, the municipal code is really clear what blighted means. The other thing too is, I guess this would be a lesson for the council, is you guys need to sell this, and that's not what's happened in the past on certain projects. So if you feel strongly about it, you need to go out to the stakeholders. And some of us were at a meeting at the Metro Center when, remember the home rule thing? Yeah. You're going to have a problem with the people that sell gas if that's not excluded. So just...
Yeah, I mean, we can't change the law. The
No,
law
I'm not
that
saying
applies
you
to
do.
that. You could try and...
But they've got to face...
You could try and boundary-wise exclude the gas stations. We'd have to look, but you're going to have to, I think, balance, can you exclude all of them or the majority? It wouldn't be fair, for example, for
But you're
gas
going to have
stations in and two
one
out.
district, right? And it's contiguous.
Yes.
You're going to have some...
First question I've got, and I'm with Starbrook Media. Restaurants, fast food, and then is it possible that those chains will come back to you and say, okay, we paid in and we want to upgrade the facade, you know, what you going to do?
Well, certainly anybody that's within the district can ask. It's up to the council, and as long as they're not picking a discriminatory reason, they can decide what type of incentive they want to offer to what type of business. So.
And I'll add into that too. You know, part of our role with the city here too is kind of host a business development district adoption is to help evaluate those. And we know the Culvers of the world don't need the same amount of money that the Apollo theaters of the world do. And it's a different consideration altogether. And it doesn't mean that, so traditionally I'd say, like the more grants, the more upfront reimbursement type things, and I'm sure Herb can speak to this, a lot of the redevelopment agreements you'd see with, Taylorville's a good example with like a Steak and Shake, it's going to be, maybe we reimburse them a percentage of their BDD 1%. We give them a 0.5% back for a period of 5 years or until we need a certain amount of new revenue generated. So it's not taking out of the funding that's going into the BDD, it's based off the new increment they would generate. So there's a way to kind of, if they say they're going to generate more sales tax by doing this expansion, then we can work through that, really evaluate the project, you know, for what it is, and make a recommendation and have these conversations with council too. But it would be weighted and I think viewed much, much differently. Same as if a Walmart said we want to redo our parking lot. Chances are that's not going to get very far at this level. But
my experience has been, it doesn't take a law to differentiate between the McDonald's of the world or Joe's Diner. But my experience has been, if cities are going to provide an incentive or reimbursement to a large national franchisor company, typically it involves some infrastructure improvements, improving access, maybe it's a turn lane, maybe it's a sidewalk to the business, maybe it's a stoplight, maybe it's a new water line. Typically, they're getting that, or it's to attract a new business that's evaluating locating in Princeton or the neighboring town. But if you want me to come to Princeton and take over this closed gas station and rehab this lot, tear this old building down, what type of incentive are you going to make available to me to come to your town versus the next town down the road? It's not, hey, McDonald's is changing their color scheme, we got to paint our building, can we get some BDD money? Typically, those types of requests aren't viewed very favorably by most city councils that have business development districts.
Has there been a percent set? Have you guys determined?
You can go anywhere from a quarter to 1%.
Well, I know that.
Yeah, that'll be up to the council. They don't have to decide what I'm asking.
No, it is not. Tonight is a really an introductory to the public to get a kind of a primer of what we're thinking about doing. The 1%, quarter percent. I don't think the quarter percent is going to give us enough traction, but I would say definitely nothing's been decided by the council. So we're here tonight. We want to hear from you folks. If you're sitting there and you got a comment or question, I want you to come up and say something to us, versus leaving here and being maybe grumbly or about something that's kind of rubbing you wrong. So please, if I say something, we're open-minded. We're listening. We are listening. Okay.
I struggle with that whole blighted, but as you said, there's a number of communities in Illinois that have them.
202 as of October 1.
Some really nice ones too.
I
that
saw
you
the
would
list,
consider
the
blighted.
kind of money they make.
Cole, did you say that Teresa or Janet would have access to business XYZ and how much they brought in 1%?
Herb mentioned that, and Teresa will, and you may have a couple other authorized users with the Department of Revenue. They can't share those individual numbers with you, but what you can do is look at them in bulk and kind of say, okay, for example, we use the focus area that we created in Jazz where it's blocks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can say block 1 generates X dollars in sales tax annually. You can group them together, but you can't share them individually. But yes, you will have access to that. It's a reciprocal agreement with Ideal Work.
Good.
I think being proactive, Sam and I disagreed all our lives, so. But you don't want to wait until it's totally blighted. You wait till you're blighted, then you have so much recovery to do. Sometimes you can't recover that. I think this is a very positive thing. 1%, let's be real about it. 1% is not very much. As long as you're not buying a car, which is not on that.
It's not,
a few things like that. 1% isn't going to amount to that much. People will not. They're going to squabble about it, but you need to sell it. I agree with Sam. But you need to be proactive. You need to be active before it becomes totally blighted. Because then you've got a lot of recovery to do. Then you're begging, you're trying to get somebody to come in there. You need to be aggressive, and that's what I like about this now.
Service industry is excluded, correct?
What's that?
Is service industry excluded? So if
It only applies to retail sales. So going to the dentist does not apply. Now, if you go get your hair cut, it doesn't apply. But if you buy shampoo or hair care products, it would apply to that product.
Well,
I'm sure you spend a lot of
where the hell do you look at me?
Well,
I'm behind you.
that applies all the way down that row, I see.
Yeah, but he's packed.
Well, the guy who doesn't carry a gun, so.
I would think this is similar to when we did the law enforcement center for the county. We actually went, and Lynn Knowles was part of that group. We actually went from town to town and gave information and pamphlets to the people because a lot of them thought it was going to be tax revenue from the properties. And so we had to explain a lot of
The county would have taken that 1% off, but our bonds, we can't do it yet because they haven't. There's another year and a half to go on the bonds. Otherwise, we're ready to drop that 1%.
We have some of those sales tax summaries for like 9 different communities. I didn't have enough printed out tonight, but can I borrow one of the council members real quick?
There's more people that waste money on gambling than they do anything.
And we're going to talk about
That's
a
a lot more than 1%.
We're going to talk about that a little bit later. We should have been in the gambling business, Darn. We would be here tonight building over this 1%, and it'll be that's a lot of money. But so real quick, and again, we'll make some extra copies tonight so you can take this home with you. Princeton right now is at an 8% sales tax. Out of that, the state of Illinois gets 6.25. Now, the state of Illinois gets that in all these communities, so we'll start with them. We'll make them the culprit taking the most, and then the county gets 1%, as Keith mentioned, and the city right now is at 0.75%. So Geneseo is at 8.25%, and then LaSalle's at 7.5%, Peru's 7.5%, Ottawa's 7.5%, Kewanee 8.25%, Canton is at 9.75%, and Dixon's at 8.25%. So we're out there on the edge of that plank a little bit when we're starting to look at an 8% now, and then we add that other 1%. We're out there in somewhat a little bit more uncharted territory than our neighbors. We like to look at Peru and see what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. Again, I want people to speak, but when we look at other communities, I went the other day. I feel like I'm getting to be a senior citizen. I went and walked the Peru Mall, and I did the whole loop. And well, anyway, but the whole point is, I commend the Peru Mall. It's spotless and they're clean. It's neat. There's no graffiti. They still got their lighting in place, but sadly, there's only about 5 businesses left in there. And I think it was, man, what are they going to do with that rascal? But and so it's going to. But anyway, so as we all understand, as a council, we want to be proactive. So I want to make it very clear as mayor, I support this 100%. But I had a few nights I had to get up and just drive around and think about this. But I get it. But because we will have the public asking us how we can justify this. And then we, as voting on this as a council, we then will make sure that this money is spent as best as possible, stewards of this money. I mean, I'm not going to be excited about a big box store coming to us wanting something, because they're already taking in so many ways. And so I don't want to start on that. But anyway, I'd like to hear from you folks. Again, if you're sitting there and you've got some questions, would you please get up here? I personally got on the phone and called people and said, I'd like to have you come sit in and listen to us. We have some realtors present. I invited both previous mayors. I invited Mayor Querum and Mayor Kane to come tonight and listen in to what's going on, because we seek counsel from people that have been in the trenches. I respect those folks, so I appreciate Keith being here tonight. Anybody from the chamber would like to speak? Anybody as a realtor would like to speak? And do you think our area, we're a little blighted? I mean, we've got, I asked Landmark Realty to be here tonight. They're represented. And then Success Realty as a proxy. Melissa Burrows is a managing broker, but her husband's here, which is just as critical of an operation. So when Sam brings up about blight, I agree. That's a tough word. It is a tough word. But when I look at our movie theater, and again, what's going to cost to get that where it needs to be, there's some real structural issues that need to be addressed there on that. We don't lose a movie theater. And there's some other stores, fronts that we won't mention tonight that have got equal problems. They're tired and they need some help, and the property owners just can't afford to do it. And we want to see West Peru Street. We want to see that tidied up, and we're working on some things with the JJ One Stop property. But we envision that there will be a 5 to say 8 foot wide sidewalk that will extend from the edge where the sidewalk stops now near Anderson Street and go all the way west to get out to the trailer park out there and get people on the sidewalk walking, not along the side of the road. And sidewalks are a great tool to get, as we talk about walkability and bicycle. The key word I think about is we want our community to be a place that we'd want to come visit or go on vacation and come to as a destination. And I say we want a lovable community, which I know sounds like a hippie comment to make, but we do want a lovable community. That's what we're after. So again, this is not an auction, but we're going to wrap this up. If I can't get anybody else to speak, I'm just hoping that tomorrow that I don't hear grumbling, or I don't want anybody on Facebook to beat me up.
I'm not on Facebook. Okay. Is that April 1st deadline? Is that realistic?
From our perspective, it is. Yes. Yeah, very much so.
From the cities?
Yeah, we got a really good start with the map and the GIS location. Yeah, we'll be fine.
I don't have a question. I just would like to touch on a couple of points that have already been made. I just want the people who are just hearing this for the first time, when they leave, remember that it's retail. Think about how many of our retail tax dollars and our retail dollars are coming from outside of this community. A lot of the money, most of the money spent on Main Street is coming from outside of even the Princeton and the surrounding communities. So we're going to be able to take dollars from these other communities to make our community better. And then also quantify, even for your own dollars. I know I spend all the money in Princeton that I can. 1% though, it's like he said, I spent $350 at Little Blue Dress a couple weeks ago. That 1% would be nothing on top of that. So people, do the math, and think about what 1% is. It's even the gas, that's a hot topic, on Facebook all the time, we're always hearing about the price of gas. I just did the math. 1% on the gas, it would cost me 57 cents more to fill my car. So just to put things just when you leave, just put it all in perspective. A lot of times when people hear tax increase, it just blows up. But
I think what Lynn just touched on is something I was wanting to get to is to keep in mind that, I think I'm losing my voice, sorry, that a lot of these projects that you have listed in that pamphlet, whether it's a sidewalk or whatever, that's all projects that we need to get taken care of, and that's going to come out of taxes somehow. It's going to come out of your property taxes. Where's it going to come from? So this is a good way of sharing that cost with outside visitors. I hate to think of it that way, but you're sharing that cost of what we would normally have to put on ourselves, our full shoulders ourselves. So it is a good way of tackling. It's the same thing the jail had to do. I mean, it's the same exact concept. Have everybody else share on that expense.
It's one tax that stays in your community.
Yep.
When you pay your income tax, you have nothing to say.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I've always said that. Your school tax supports your local schools. I don't have any problems with that. I don't have any problems with my library tax and my city tax. I do with my income tax, because sometimes I wonder where that money's going.
That is vacations.
Mr. Mayor, I may just add too, this is an exciting conversation to be a part of when it comes to municipal government and how we coordinate things, the order and the process in which we go through. Luckily, in the places we represent. But there are some places that will come through, hey, we need this for one specific project, we're going to approve a BDD, and then everybody finds out about it on the back end. Or you don't go into it with a super intentional plan to support all these different areas of investment that really touch across the spectrum in your community. It's not just residents, it's not just business owners, it's not just infrastructure, walkability, visitors. You're taking all this in and making sure that's part of a really solid plan that Jacob and Klein is putting together as part of this process. And I think that's super important. Being intentional with our investment. It's a funding source that hasn't been tapped into yet, but if we can go into it very intentionally, we see a lot of really, really good results. And I think one thing I would encourage everyone to come to the January 27th meeting to share some insight, and you talk about selling it too at that meeting, and we'll kind of work through this, and I'll work through it with Michael. But during that presentation, which it'll be similar, but we want to go through what are some of the real life impacts of a community that has a business development district. What kind of projects has it led to? And I know Herb can speak to this because they also represent Canton, where I used to work. And in the last 3-ish years since creating that business development district, they received 60 redevelopment applications projects, and I think maybe 2 of them are from a corporation or a franchise, which shows the absolute, most all local, the absolute need, but also the tool being used and seeing some real value, some real change, some real impact. And to be able to share some of those use cases, I think, will be really important as part of that meeting too. So
I think it's the intentional part and the responsible part. Like Herb said, you can't use it for salaries. You can't use it. It's very strict what you can use it for, and I think the public understands that. That's the responsible, transparent side. So yes.
People that complain about the 1% can turn around and complain, why don't we have more businesses in the town? You know what I mean? It's one hand's got to feed the other hand. So, I mean, you've got to have something there for incentive to make it work.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I didn't come to this meeting for this. I didn't know anything about this, so I'm just learning tonight. And I'm not a retailer now. I'm still in business, but I'm not a retailer that I was for 27 years in Princeton, where we collected money. And in our business, the antique mall business, I'd say 95% of the tax money that we got came from people that were not in 10, 15 miles even of Princeton, let alone Princeton people. And so that brought money all the time into Princeton that was coming from some out of the state mean, had a little map inside the door, people put where they were from, and you can just say the north half of the country from coast to coast. And Princeton got known in there, and all these people were bringing money into us, I mean, not me, but us Princeton people, and to me it looks like what it's generating is going to get used, I don't know whether usefully, but purposely, I don't know what the right word to say right now, but it's going to be used to an advantage of the people in Princeton, the business people particularly, going to help them so that they can generate more business and keep going like that. I don't know on the hotel end of things, it used to be at 11%. I don't know whether another 11 or 12% is not uncommon in that business, but people, if you rent them a room for $150 and you want another 10%, well, then it's another $15, and you tell them the price of the room is this plus the tax, but you don't necessarily tell them the
Until they check out.
Out pretty quickly, but I think that sounds to me like it's a positive thing. I'm usually kind of against more taxes, but I think that this is something that we're kind of getting the money from outside and we're going to spend it here. And I think that's a positive thing. And talking about the sidewalks, out where I have business stuff out at the north end, I see the road along there is a busy road. I know it's supposed to be 40 miles an hour, and occasionally I actually drive 40, but and I'm not talking about coming up from 30. I'm talking about the other way around, which I shouldn't admit. The thing is, there's no sidewalk, which I shouldn't say this probably in public, but on the stepchildren's side of the north end, there's no sidewalk. Nothing is there basically from the railroad tracks and going north. As a business person, I felt a long time like we just don't amount to a piece of anything, because the other side of the street gets it, and we're generating taxes as well or better than they are. And of course now we got that big place out there, the north end, that generates lots of dollars, but there's no sidewalks. And there was, in the rain here 2 or 3 weeks ago, there's some old guy, rides along on a tricycle thing, and he's out in the street, in the gutter, riding along. Well, the cars have to get out, so they're out into the passing lane, and they can get around him. But, the other side of the street, I see scooters, electric scooters going along 20 miles an hour, or bicycles that are all powered up that are flying along through there, and you go to pull out of Beck's or some of those other places, you can't see the sidewalk when you get out there to get ready for your turn. You have to get over the sidewalk to be able to see down to know whether you can turn on the main street. Well, they've got stuff in the way that you can't even see, and if those people are going through there, I try to always look ahead of time, but don't always do that either. And if you look at my truck, you'll see I don't always look at the back either. I think that this, as little as I know about it, it sounds like it's positive for Princeton and presented in a way that I can understand. So I'm sure the people are too. But I think Sam had a good point. You got to make sure that you're telling them what you're doing and get it out to them right to the start, what the benefits are going to be, and then explain the rest of the stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to, when Sam and Keith were selling it and getting that on there, Michael and I went back and forth and recognized businesses in town and have our little list. So we're going to do our due diligence this month to have some group meetings that, retailers, business owners can come in and ask questions. That will all be going out this week, but we'll be making personal visits too, to have some one-on-one, just so then it's more open dialogue, because some people don't like to speak up in public meetings, and then that gives them a chance to kind of be more prepared for the end of the month. So we are going to do those.
That's really
Yeah.
That's great. It really has been one of the big topics in our meetings, is making sure we're educating the public on this, because if we don't, this is all for nothing, right?
Yeah.
You've got to know what we're going after, what we're doing, and that from the start. I know Jenica and I and Michael had a lot of conversations on it. We have to sell this the right way.
Great.
And I think it's super important, Jessica, and thank you and Michael for doing that and getting that out there, because it's kind of the 90-10 rule, right? Like, even if it was one person out of 100 that adamantly opposed the project and all the other 99 supported it, you will hear from 100% of the one. You may hear from 1% of the 99. So it can have this overwhelming feeling of this isn't supported, or community, and that's why we want to get as many people involved as possible, get feedback. And what you'll see in your kind of report too is capturing that feedback and then sharing that back to you in another setting like this, where we see what that overwhelming kind of sentiment on the thing is. And then the only other, and maybe this relates to gas, I use it more for restaurants sometimes, but my question always, and this is just for me personally, because I asked myself this when I first started doing business development districts, I was learning more about them a few years ago, it was, how often when you decide where you're going to go eat or go visit, do you look up their sales tax rate before you decide where you're going to go eat or visit? And I said never. I mean, now I do, because I'm a nerd about this stuff, and I just want to know. I mean, I'm still going to go to the same restaurant, but point being is, same with gas. They're going to look at the number on the sign. I don't think they're going to look up the tax rate. And I don't know how you change the number on the sign, but point being is, like, people aren't traditionally, you can go some places in the Levy District in East Peoria and be across the street, you're paying 13% sales tax at a restaurant versus 11 over here. So it's just one of those things. It's not that it doesn't have an impact or that you're trying to hide it or anything else. And that's the importance about being transparent with the community. But people from outside your community, they're not basing where they're going off your tax rate. They're basing it off of, is it a destination? Is it a place we want to be? Is that somewhere we want to visit? And that's what we can hope to capture. So.
Is there any other comments or questions from the public right at this point? So what we'd like to do is this then. We are going to ask if you could just, we're going to have a very brief meeting tonight as far as our council business. And then if they could you just stick around, and then if there's some questions and then we're going to go into executive session, but we're going to take about 5 minutes before we go into executive session to see if there's anything we can answer to as well. So you just stick around. So I think there's some folks. We've got a great mix right now tonight here, and I think one-on-one that you may have some more questions. And Herb, we could just...
Yeah, I can take her off.
Okay, just if you don't mind. Okay. Any other questions or comments from the council on this? Okay, we're going to move on then with our regular meeting. Let's go ahead now. Is there anybody here for actual public comment tonight? And we have, go ahead, Vaj, and we'd like to come up to the podium, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, I went from one personality to another one now. So I'm here right now. Last February, I presented the city clerk with the bills that I paid inadvertently at the hotel on the engineering work, and I've been trying to get an answer. Well, I expected to get paid, but I haven't. That hasn't happened, and I gave him you guys a little more time. You're busy and all that. So anyway, I gave you more time. I talked with Teresa in August and asked her, she says, well, he hasn't read it yet. I don't know if those are the exact words, but that's what's stuck in my brain. Maybe it's the second time, another month and a half later, I asked you another time. He still hasn't read it, and of course I'm concerned about the person's ability to read, because this is from February. So what I'm really asking about right now is, where does this stand? And I'd like to know if you got an answer, and if you did, I'd like to see the letter that says whatever it says, positive or negative, and I'd like to get those bills paid. I'd like to be paid for those bills. I paid them, but it's work for the American and I can't even say it. The guys next door.
Wise guys?
Wise guys, yeah. Now I can't say it. I've been saying it for 25 years, and now I can't say it. But anyway, it's for that, and so I don't know whether you can give me any more answer tonight or not, if you've heard anything. And if not...
This is going back to the beginning of the TIF, right?
Yes, it is. And I never presented it. Well, that's in 07. It's the first two checks I wrote for, and had to go down to Alan Forstall at the bank and tell him, I need another $38,000 that I just don't have. I didn't hire the guy to come out and do it, who was Kevin Heinzman from Chamberlain, and I was told at the time that, they're going to get this thing all be a kumbaya buy a lot, well, I wouldn't go for that, so they made my lot separate, and Wise Guys and some of that other stuff. Sandwich shop Subway wasn't built yet, so, but that was in the works. But at any rate, I inadvertently did it, paid it, and didn't think about it till I was selling the other property. I started looking, well, hey, what were you thinking? Well, I wasn't, obviously. So that's why I presented last February, and now it's almost a year later, and I don't have an answer, yes or no, so that I can go from wherever that is to where I think I have to go to get it done. So
Why don't we do this then? Teresa and I meet every Thursday, so we'll have a discussion Thursday, and then we'll include the council, and Teresa will give an update to the council, and we'll be able to discuss this. So,
all right, I'd appreciate
you've been
that.
duly noted.
And then I could get an answer maybe another month from now.
Written agreement?
Yes.
On that?
Well, the city has it. I have it too.
I mean, with Hamlin that you.
No, I didn't. I never hired him. The city was using Heinzman as a city engineer and sent him out to do the layout stuff.
Okay.
And I didn't do that. I worked with him on trying to get some stuff done. I'm already griping about one thing, but I don't want. I should gripe. Well, I did to him, but nothing happened. Some water doesn't run uphill. Let's just put it that way.
So Teresa and I will meet Thursday. We'll have for discussion, and we'll get a hold of the council with some discussion too.
All right, I'd appreciate that if you get a little more positive approach on it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Raj.
All right.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like? We also have public comment at the end of the meeting as well. So with that said, we're going to go. Oh yes, go ahead.
Take more
Jenny,
time.
go ahead.
I do want to just point something out. Our new chamber and community guides came out. I will leave some, but all of our chamber member businesses are highlighted in here. You guys will all be starting to get some deliveries of these. We did an ode to America because it's our 250th, so it's all American flags in Princeton, which is really cool. So these are out. It will go on our new website eventually too, but we're really excited. It gets better every year. So,
and the community calendar's in there, right?
The community calendar is in there.
Everything's in there. Great.
Yep.
Good. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that. Okay, we're going to go ahead now and go to the approval of minutes, please.
I move that we approve the minutes from our regular council meeting on December 15th, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any questions or comments about those minutes from the council? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Newman.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
McCall.
Aye.
Gillespie.
Aye.
And Mayor Mabry.
Aye. Now on to our invoices with City Clerk Janet Henning.
In the Department of Accounts and Finances, we have $75,908.42. Department of Streets and Public Improvement, $261,184.54. Department of Public Safety, $130,188.48. And the Department of Public Property and Utilities, $435,335.07, with a grand total of $902,616.51. Mayor, all council members present have confirmed the reviews of all the invoices, and they're now submitted to disposition.
Thank you.
I move that we approve the invoices as presented.
We have a motion and second. Is there any questions or comments concerning those invoices? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Newman.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
McCall.
Aye.
Gillespie.
Aye.
And Mayor Mabry.
Aye. Thank you. Now on to the board appointment, please.
I move that we appoint Laura Gray to the Planning Commission and Zoning Appeals to replace a wonderful person, Jackie Davis. This term expires on April 30th, 2026.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any questions, comments from the council concerning that? Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Newman.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
McCall.
Aye.
Gillespie.
Aye.
And Mayor Mabry.
Aye. Now on to our city manager report with Teresa Wittenauer.
Make it super fast. In your packet is the police pension report for November 2025.
That's it. Okay. See, we're moving forward. Herb, don't worry. We're each out of here. Okay. I saw Herb. It's like, oh boy, here we go. And now we're on to the mayor's report. And as Jerry mentioned, tonight we had an appointment for the Planning and Zoning Commission because we had a vacancy. And tonight we are going to recognize Jackie Davis. Jackie Davis, tremendous lady. I'm just going to read a couple of from her obituary. Jackie moved to Princeton in 1981, where she raised 3 children, Grant, Bart, and Jane. And it goes on to say that she went on to teach at Logan Junior High School, and community education and public service were the strong points of Jackie's life. She was always active in her children's education, and she was a Cub Scout troop as a den leader. She taught confirmation at St. Matthew's, and she was a coach for her daughter's youth soccer team. Besides that, she volunteered in the Princeton community at the Perry Memorial Hospital, the Closet, the Optimist Club, the Princeton Public Library, and Lincoln Elementary School. She also served on the high school board, the Princeton Public Library Board, and the City of Princeton's Planning Commission. One more comment here I thought was appropriate for Jackie, and as we all know, we really appreciate having her on our Planning and Zoning Commission. Jackie really thought, and when she came to these meetings, and Jerry, you went to every one of those meetings, she came there prepared.
Oh, yeah.
She had her homework done, as a good teacher would have her homework done.
And she pulled no punches.
She growled at me a few times. Yeah, but no, she did. When she went, we had a position open as a chairperson when Jim Scruggs decided he didn't want to do that anymore, and immediately Jackie was the first person to be chosen. We thought unanimously that's the person. So we just want to extend our condolences to Jackie's family. That would be Grant and Bart and Janie. And again, peace be to the memory of Jackie Davis. We just appreciate all she gave to our community. Thank you. And final mayor's comments, and we're going to make this brief, but I wanted to give a copy of this to each of the council members. So let's do this. Janet, you're going to get one of these too. There's three going that way, and Teresa, this is going to go down there for each one, please. And there should be one for you. Make sure we all got one. And this is just something to chew on. So when we think about video gaming in Princeton, and this is, we're not, all the communities basically, I went and looked at LaSalle and Peru and Geneseo and Mendota and Kewanee. But just to give you an example, the past 12 months of video gaming in Princeton, I went from on the State of Illinois website, and you can punch this in. The past 12 months, from December 24 to November 25, there was total gaming, people putting in the machines was $66 million, and they won back roughly $59.8 million. But there was a loss of $6,286,000 in the city limits of Princeton on video gaming, and that's a real sobering number. Over $6 million lost. The city does generate income from this, so we're there in many ways. And just so you know, in the past 12 months, we had $319,000 that came into the city in revenue. The state of Illinois gets a 30% cut, and they were at $1.9 million. So, I'm not here tonight to say we're going to limit video gaming anymore. I think the fair market will decide where video gaming goes in Princeton. There's 20 establishments that offer video gaming, and it's just a fact of life. But personally, as a mayor, I worry about the $6.3 million that was lost. Where did that money go? It's just people that probably couldn't afford to lose that money that maybe should have been maybe painting the house or working on something. So anyway, very interesting numbers. Okay, with that all said, we're going to go to any old business before the council tonight. Any new business before the council tonight?
Yeah, I brought up emails to all the council members and everybody here, I guess, about we had a retailer reach out about THC infused drinks to see if it was allowed in the city, so we're doing some digging. I guess definitely something we're going to have to write some sort of ordinance on for regulations on those things, so something to be working towards very soon. And
Michael, we appreciate working on that. I know that Chief has dialogued back with you.
Yeah.
You included me in those emails. So, but as of right now, though, you have to be over 21 to buy that drink.
Well, the law doesn't say that.
The law doesn't say that.
It does not say that.
That's the problem.
Over 18?
Nope, that's what the problem comes in.
So I went out to one of the local establishments and saw the display, and I swear they made it sound like to be up for 21.
Some of our retailers, like Beck's, for instance, has adopted a policy, corporate policy, that they will not sell to under 21. But the state has not addressed it yet. There's a loophole in the Hemp Act that there is some legislation going on now, but we probably need to act a little sooner.
Yeah, the distributors are suggesting that it's sold like alcohol 21 or over. But unfortunately, that's not the regulations. So their computer systems, if they do that right, like the distributors are asking them to do, which I don't think we have anybody out of compliance or what they're asking in town that I'm aware of, at least. I can't speak for every business that sells it, but it's been a high selling point in most places, but we need to get some regulations on this as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And the place I went to look was Beck. So we commend the Beckers for doing what I would say the right thing is to keep that 21 or over, and then we still have concerns over it. I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Michael, for working on that. Any additional new business? Any additional public comment?
What about the bikes on the list?
I'm sorry.
Bikes.
Oh, I think, I'm sorry, I glossed right over it. We're still working on that. I'd say it's right.
It's a holder on the agenda until
Yeah.
we get
Yeah.
a little further with the ordinance, which we probably should move that THC one up.
Yeah, on the e-bikes we are, and I know, Chief, you're still working on that, so I'm sorry I glossed over that. I should have at least addressed it to let you know that we're just going to pass on any discussion on that tonight. Okay, now we're going to go ahead, Jared, if you would, please.
I move that we adjourn our regular meeting this evening and convene into executive session under state statutes to discuss appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees. The next regular council meeting will be on Monday, January 19th, 6 p.m. at City Hall.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and before we call the roll on that, we're going to stick around as a council for about 5 minutes, and then we will go back into executive session because I want the council to be here in case there's any questions or comments that we need to hear about. Okay, with that, clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Newman.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
McCall.
Aye.
Gillespie.
Aye.
And Mayor Mabry.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you for attending, everyone being here tonight. I appreciate that.